Hello everyone, and this is my review for Monday Night Raw on October 13th, 2014. And, this week's Raw, I think they did a lot better job of, setting up things for Hell in a Cell. Also, just in a few other aspects of it. Having the match with, switching up the match instead of having Cena and Ambrose have the match at Hell in a Cell and then have the second match later on. Them having it 2 weeks beforehand, so you have the ability to build into the pay-per-view match between whoever was going to be doing it at the time, is a lot better way of selling the pay-per-view versus, figuring it out right as the show's going on, or, as the show's going on. So, kudos to them to actually, making that match happen before the pay-per-view event. Now, I mean, the concept and the reasoning behind the match, and, them switching the match, at least in the terms of storyline, I didn't think was any good. I didn't like the aspect of how, they Triple H and Stephanie brought it off as good as they could, and them on the mic is really good together. So, but having Triple H decide, oh, I'm going to do the match, we're going to do this match now instead of at Hell in a Cell because he lost a bet. Really? That like the concept behind it, I didn't think came off all that good, but the aspect that for story building going into the pay-per-view, then having this match before the pay-per-view and figuring out who's going to face Seth Rollins before then was a really good idea, and I'm glad they decided to go that route. Now, and you saw that throughout the rest of the show. You build to their contract on a pole match, which honestly I don't really like those matches to begin with. I'll talk about that in a few moments as well. But you also saw other decent story buildings going on with Randy Orton and Seth Rollins. You're kind of seeing the tension between the two of them and them trying to one-up each other. You have Randy Orton say, well, if the winner's going to get this, if the winner's going to get Seth Rollins in Hell in a Cell, I want the other person in Hell in a Cell throughout there, which was pretty much the plan from the I believe from the get-go. And it's good that they decided to go with that plan because you do need something for Randy Orton going into the pay-per-view. You can't really just have him have nothing and not be on the show. He is still one of your biggest. He's still one of the biggest stars there, so you do need him on the show for any reason whatsoever. And the matches with Seth Rollins and Jack Swagger and Randy Orton and Dolph Ziggler, I've found very enjoyable throughout there. And like I said, you saw the story building between the two of them for a potential match in the future with Seth Rollins and Randy Orton somewhere down the line. So that will be interesting to see how far they're going to go with that. The storyline with Rusev and Big Show, finally led into a match with the two of them, and actually I thoroughly enjoyed the match. It was a fun match to watch between the two of them. And of course, you have to keep it with the storylines, like, it looks like Rusev's going to win, and they decide to, have Mark Henry actually interfere in the match. So they, it continues on with the feud between the two of them, and it gives it a reason to make it a pay-per-view match and everything in that sense. So that's okay there, and it was just good to see that that match was actually thoroughly entertaining to watch. And then of course you have the continuing story building between Nikki and Brie Bella. That's going where it's going, and they make their match for Hell in a Cell, and now it's the loser is the other's personal assistant. Okay, really? I mean, in that sense, this is where a little bit of the downfall for Raw was this week. I mean, this story hasn't built to this in any way. You're just kind of throwing this stipulation for the sake of throwing this stipulation in there. They haven't really built anything behind the two of them to say, oh, the loser of this match is going to be the other's personal assistant. You didn't get that sense in any way, shape, or form. You just kind of had the two sisters hate each other type deal. So okay, they added that stipulation on there. I mean, I guess it could lead to something interesting down the road, but it doesn't really serve too much of a purpose there. The AJ Lee and Paige storyline's really going nowhere. It's just kind of them putting Alicia Fox and Paige in a tag team match with Paige and one of the other divas. This week it was Layla. Layla did the reverse of what AJ did the week before, but it doesn't pan out to where AJ loses the match. So that storyline itself as well is going really nowhere. The Damien Mizdow and Miz storyline with Sheamus, I think it's just thoroughly entertaining. This is probably some of the best work you've seen the Miz do, and then of course how Sandow is going along with everything, and just it's not just funny; it's actually entertaining with what they're doing with both Damien Sandow and The Miz. And hopefully they do actually put the U.S. title on Miz in this case, because it's just a very fun and entertaining character to watch the both of them, pull off in the end. So kudos to them for keeping on going with this, and hopefully they go with it for a bit of a longer time, and maybe it leads into a feud with Sandow and Miz somewhere down the line, because eventually the stunt double is going to want to surpass the quote-unquote star in this case. So that should be an entertaining feud down the road too. So we'll see where they actually go with that. The Wyatt family promos are continuing on. Obviously, it looks like they're going to have. I'm thinking they're going to have Eric Rowan and Luke Harper as a tag team still, but they're going to be away from Bray Wyatt. But from the looks of the final promo of the night, it looks like Bray's going to be getting 2 new guys in some way here in the future, and we'll see where it is. The rumor mill is that they're bringing the Ascension up from NXT. Maybe they're going to be put in with Bray. Maybe Bray's going to be on his own completely, and it's just going to be him. So we'll see where they actually go with that. I'm thoroughly enjoying those vignettes on Raw, and it's just and we'll see where they actually decide to go with everything here in the very near future. This does bring me to what the main event of the night was John Cena, Dean Ambrose, and the quote-unquote no-holds-barred match, contract on a pole. Okay. This is one of those other okay moments. Because you would figure any contract on a pole match, what you need to do is get up on the turnbuckle and get up to the contract or whatever's on the pole, and you figure it'd be no holds barred anyway. Why are you actually having to emphasize that it's going to be no holds barred? Also, just the way that they did the match, I did not actually enjoy the pacing of the match, mainly just because of simple logic areas. I mean, Cena and Ambrose, they don't necessarily like each other, but they're really only fighting over the purposes of facing Seth Rollins inside the Hell in a Cell. And it just did not come off that well in a logical standpoint, because they just it's like they don't like each other, but they don't absolutely hate each other. So the spots where like Cena or Ambrose are thrown out the ring, and then the other person's not actually going after the contract, and they just continue the fight even further, just didn't really make any sense with how they were doing it. It would have made a lot more sense with having issues with issues getting the contract and everything, if they would have had, like they could have teased throughout the entire match, like one person tries to go up for get the contract, and that's when Orton and Kane and Seth Rollins attack and everything like that, which they eventually do in the match, but it took a while to do it. But again, I mean, at the end, I do like how Dean Ambrose, just the way he interacts in his matches and his segments, it just comes off completely different. It comes off almost in a random sense of how he acts. And you saw that right at the end of the match, where he kind of just stares down Cena right at the end of the match before taking the contract down. You even have Cena tease that he's gonna, maybe he's just gonna come off the ropes and they continue the fight, and then he just pulls the contract down in the end. So they did have some good spots inside there, but the match itself it did not flow. It did not have a good logic. It did not have a good psychology behind it, which was unfortunate. But they are going with the route of having Seth Rollins face Dean Ambrose, and then you're going to have Cena and Randy Orton inside the Hell in a Cell. And you know, this is a good way of looking, and this is a good way of actually looking at it. You have the established main event type people inside the Hell in a Cell with Randy Orton and John Cena, and you're going to have the future type main event people with Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins inside the Hell in a Cell, both on one show. So you're kind of getting you know, what's the present and what's the future going into the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, and hopefully they actually do a little bit more with the storylines next week and make it, and you know, give them their finishing touches going into the actual pay-per-view itself, and then hopefully, of course, the pay-per-view will be enjoyable as well. So that's my review this week for Monday Night Raw, and I thank you guys for watching.